All right, well, let's get rolling here. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for the first webinar in a series of webinars that we're planning to focus on some of the upcoming changes to cookies, data, privacy. My name is Matt Borrud. I'm the Marketing and Innovation Administrator at the Idaho Department of Commerce, Idaho Tourism. A few housekeeping items here before we dive in. Please remember to keep yourself muted throughout. We'll be monitoring on our end as well, and we'll absolutely mute you if you are causing problems or just loud or crackly or typing or whatever it is. So please keep yourself muted. We'll be monitoring it as well. That being said, we absolutely want engagement and questions. This is a dynamic topic. We've got a wonderful presenter today. So please submit any questions via the chat functionality. We'll make sure there's time at the end to answer those questions. We can unmute you at that time to answer a question, ask a question, or maybe we'll just talk through it. But please submit questions or be ready with questions, because we'll absolutely have some time toward the end to make sure we can cover that stuff. As mentioned, this is the first of kind of a multi-part webinar series each Thursday over the next few weeks. I think as preparing for this and looking back over the last couple of years, one of the real bright spots of 2020 was the Coffee Talk series. And, it was really great to get to connect with our partners statewide. Obviously, at that time, we were trying to figure out which way was up and, sharing any new information that we could at that time. It was such a good experience that, the team went ahead and planned another series of Coffee Talks last year at this time. Lori, Amy, Diane did a wonderful job of bringing our partners together to kind of showcase some of our local DMOs and what were some of the interesting things that they're doing and some learnings. And so that was a really great series. And so we're hoping to do the same thing this time on, what I believe is going to be a very big change, a transformational change, something that we all need to be aware of and prepared for, and thinking through kind of how we can adjust some of our strategies and adapt as we work through some of these changes, big changes coming in the next couple of years. So with that, diving into our topic today, a crash course in cookies. As mentioned, over the last several years, online data privacy measures have increased significantly, domestically and internationally. So whether we're talking GDPR, CCPA, or others, looking ahead to this next year and the year beyond, we're going to see even more significant changes when it comes to privacy, data, tracking, measurement. Cookies have been they've long been an important tool for measuring campaign performance and analytics. I'm sure we have all clicked and accepted or declined them on countless websites over the last few years. However, as Google makes some big changes coming up here, understanding what these changes mean for our ad campaigns, for data strategies will absolutely be vital. And so that's one of the real big reasons why we want to have this conversation. From a tourism perspective, an Idaho tourism perspective, the vast majority of our campaigns are rooted in digital. I think as we look at our grantees, our grant programs, more of the campaigns that our DMO and regional partners are executing, across our state, more and more and more, we're looking at more digital solutions. And so this is something that has the potential to have a big impact, and we want to make sure everybody is educated and informed as possible. So over the next few weeks, we will bring speakers to discuss these changes, help understand the impacts of the changes from different perspectives. This is a very multi-pronged kind of a topic. And then offer some strategies for how we can adjust. And with that, I want to make sure to reiterate that those of us within the Idaho Tourism at the state office, we are here to help. If there are any questions, anything you're unsure of, anything we can do to just review plans or strategies, we are here. Nancy's a phenomenal point person. Diane's a great point person. My phone, email is always open. And we have really, really great partners at Madden Media. And so we will leverage them as well for their know-how. And so that leads me to introduce our our presenter today. This week, we are fortunate to have Hannah Chute from Madden Media leading this crash course discussion. Hannah is our media director at Madden. She develops and executes all of our Visit Idaho media campaigns. She also leads the charge on a lot of our data and analytics efforts. She is one of the smartest people I know. And so as we thought about how do we kick this thing off, we really couldn't have come up with a better person than Hannah to lead this first discussion. So everybody grab your coffees. Remember to submit your questions using the chat functionality. And Hannah, thank you so much for leading us today, and it's all yours.
Thank you, Matt. That was such a very kind introduction. But hi, everyone. It's so nice to meet you all virtually. Like Matt said, my name is Hannah Chute, and I'm the media director at Madden. I've been in the digital marketing world for almost 5 years now, living and breathing digital media. So I'm so excited to jump into the world of cookies with you all today. But before we jump in, here's just like a quick overview about what we're here to talk about. So I'm going to run through a crash course in HTTP cookies, also known as internet cookies, and identify the main differences between what a first-party cookie and a third-party cookie is, and then explain why third-party cookies will be removed sometime next year, and add on a few tips to help you prepare your first-party data strategy when those third-party cookies are officially removed. So welcome to your crash course in cookies. And as much as I love a warm chocolate chip cookie, the cookies that we're going to talk about today are not the type that you can bake in the oven. The cookie we're talking about today is called an HTTP cookie, and it's defined as a text file which contains small pieces of data like your name or your username and your password created by your web server. So for example, Chrome, Firefox, maybe you're a Safari user, while you are browsing the web. Then your web browser stores that data either temporarily or permanently so they can later identify you and your actions on that website. So let's look at an example. Every time you open up a web browser, whether that's a work computer, a personal tablet, or your cell phone, and you start typing in keywords or phrases, reading articles, watching videos, maybe you hover over images, or you log into anything, your web server creates cookies to identify you and keep track of your preferences over time. Cookies are used to help customize web pages to make them more relevant to you. So the goal is to create a more personalized user experience. Now there are two types of cookies. Let's click over, here you go. One is a first-party cookie and the other is a third-party cookie. So a first-party cookie is data that is created and stored by the website that you are currently on. Some common uses of first-party cookies would be to collect analytics data about your site users, remember maybe language settings, and remember your username or your passwords. If you've ever cleared your cache and cookies, you will likely have noticed all of a sudden your passwords are no longer saved, and that's because they're connected to your web cookies. And third-party cookie is created and placed by a third party. For example, an advertising company like Google or Facebook, and they're used to track and store data under a different domain than the one that you are currently on. So third-party cookies are often used in advertising to track people across multiple sites, maybe retarget users and serve ads across those sites. So oftentimes when you are delivered an advertisement as you are surfing the web, that ad is customized based on your browsing data, which is stored by those third-party cookies. So a perfect example of this is someone looking to purchase a new tent to go camping. More than not, if you're looking to buy a tent, it's probably because you have camped or you are planning to go camping. And a tent is a fairly large purchase. So most people will go to Google and do their research and figure out, which tent they want to buy under, what price range. And as they start reading reviews and typing in keywords and browsing different websites, advertising companies are tracking you by those third-party cookies. So you are essentially leaving a trail of cookies for advertisers to identify what you are interested in as you are browsing these sites. And then they're going to pull you into an audience and label you as interested in camping or in the market to buy a tent based off of that cookie data. So now, as advertisers, when we want to target new visitors that are not familiar with our brand, but we want them to be interested in camping, we tap into that third-party data. And we use the audience that is built off of those third-party cookies to show our Visit Idaho ads to people that are more likely to actually book a camping trip and come to the destination and camp in Idaho. Now, it's no surprise the reason we are talking about HTTP cookies is because third-party cookies are planning to go away on Chrome in 2023. This was planned to happen this year, January of 2022, but Google delayed the discontinuation of the third-party cookies because they are still working on how to satisfy the needs of all users and publishers and advertisers that really rely on this data. So third-party cookies have already been restricted from Safari and Firefox. Chrome makes up 64% of all browser traffic on the web. So as advertisers, we have many worries about the effectiveness of our advertising without third-party cookies, which makes this a really big deal. So why are third-party cookies going away then, if it's such a big worry for advertisers? And it's because right now, people are demanding greater privacy, and consumer-facing brands are understanding that there is a direct link between data privacy and customer loyalty. But the good news is that while Google continues to delay the death of the third-party cookie, it gives us advertisers and companies time to prepare for a world without third-party cookies. And one of the best ways to prepare for this world without third-party cookies is to lean into our first-party data. So like I said in the beginning, first-party cookies are data pulled from users directly on your app or your website. And luckily, these first-party cookies are not going away. So when a visitor comes to your website, either from an advertisement or an organic search, the moment they land on your page, you get to track their likes and their preferences as long as you have set up the correct tracking to do so. Right now, we want to be able to analyze every touch point from our website users to connect the dots between what they are interested in, what they are looking for, and to make it as easy as possible for them to access that information. So a good first step to building a first-party data strategy is to analyze your path to purchase and your touch points with a user. For many of us, the first time a user actually interacts with our brand is through our website. So it's crucial to make sure you are tracking users on your website with a tag, a free tag like Google Analytics. That way you can easily analyze the preferences of your audience, and based on your most traffic pages, you can identify what people are actually interested in. So if you run an email marketing program to stay connected with your customers, make sure you are placing an emphasis on data collection this year. Think about the ways you directly obtain data from your customer and make sure that you have created the best possible user experience to continue to collect that data. The next step is to be transparent with your data. So be transparent with your site users to build trust. Be very clear about the data that you're collecting on them and how you're going to use it. I added this quote from Google, but they did a study and found that people are happy to provide personal information to companies they trust as long as they know how it will be used and what they'll get in return. So if you're leaning into lead generation as a core marketing strategy, make sure that you are asking questions and delivering personalized content to your customers. Being clear about the data that you collect is a great way to strengthen your brand in people's eyes. And as we look to Google and their playbook to deliver performance and privacy, one of the most important tips we can give you is to explain the value. So make it meaningful for people to interact with you as a company or a brand. These tips are taken from Google's playbook, but I think the second bullet point is kind of the most important, is to really make it meaningful. So when people see the value in an exchange, they are more likely to engage and share the data that brands need to help to make future exchanges more valuable. Google has also included make it memorable and make it manageable. Like, these are three core tricks to make sure that you are keeping track of users on your website and making sure you are understanding that it's an exchange of value for data. So if you want more consumers to interact with you, you want to keep track of what they're interested in. Do you have an offer? Do you have a specific value exchange that you can give them, whether it's a coupon or whether it's great content that you're serving up to them that is of interest to them, that is targeted and very clearly dynamically created for that user? That's what people are really looking for. And there's also a stat on here. Globally, 9 in 10 adults say that they are more likely to shop with brands that provide offers and recommendations that are relevant to them. So it's very clear right now in this world of privacy and data, people still want to engage with brands, but they want to engage with brands that are more likely to be something that they value, right? Let's click over here. Cool. So as a quick summary, these are the 3 key takeaways that I have for you. Focus on your first party data collection. So continue to collect data right now through Google Analytics, because that is your first party data. First party data is not going to go away. So anytime somebody comes to your website and clicks through pages or hovers over images, like that is data that you can collect on people that is not going away. And right now, that's the most important data to collect, because we won't be able to use third-party cookie tracking to identify that somebody is interested in camping or interested in buying a tent by their movements on the web. Now we're going to have to identify what people are interested in based off of the data we know about them. So how do we do that, right? We have to ask questions. We have to make sure that when we do collect data from people, whether that's an email lead form or that's just a questionnaire on your website, right? We want to ask very targeted questions to make sure we understand that people are interested in camping, or maybe they are interested in family fun activities, right? Whatever it might be, that's the data that we really need to be collecting on people now. So that way, in the future, when third-party cookies go away, we are prepared to advertise to these people and continue to deliver personalized content to each individual. So the next one is be transparent, right? Be transparent so you build trust with your site users. It's very common every time you go to a website now, you see kind of that box that says, do you understand that we're collecting cookies and we're tracking you? And you probably have to submit yes before you can actually go onto the website. So that's pretty clear. Everyone knows that companies are collecting their data, but they have a choice now. Consumers have more of a choice than they had before to be able to give you that data. So it's really nice to be able to be transparent with your consumers and say, hey, this is what we're collecting the data on. It's really for you. It's because we want to make sure that we're creating a great user experience for you, and that we are making sure we're delivering the right content to you so you stay engaged and you're excited about interacting with our brand. So, quick, easy steps with that is define your data usage and be clear about email opt-ins if you do have an email marketing program. And the third tip is to explain the value. So people need to see value in exchange for data, right? If you have a coupon, right, people are willing to give you their information to get that coupon because that is maybe a value to them. If you're delivering up personalized content, people might be willing to give you their data to get that personalized content so they have a great interaction, or they are searching for great places to go camping and they want to get a Visit Idaho visitor guide, right? That's because they want to be very targeted and finding the best camping spots in Idaho because they're really looking to be inspired and to find a new place to go camping. So explain the value, explain why users and consumers should interact with your brand, and be clear and concise. And that's how people are really going to focus on your brand and give you that data that we really need to collect right now, because eventually we won't be able to easily target people like we can right now. And that's all I have for you guys.
Awesome. Wonderful. Well, thank you, Hannah. So everyone, if you have any questions, please use the chat functionality. I have a couple questions I was hoping to just maybe kind of kick us off with a little bit here, but certainly want to take everybody else's questions as they come through. So one thing, Hannah, that I think is interesting, or I don't know if it's still if it's still kind of something that's being developed, but I know Google has some of these tools, and I think Facebook does as well. And I think we'll hear from future presenters that'll kind of talk about some different solutions that they're bringing online. But being able to sort of connect the first party data, for all intents and purposes, our email lists, our opt-ins, to our Google campaigns. So are there ways, I mean, I think when we talk about the value of or I should say, providing content of value, providing information, providing something that engages a user in signing up to provide an email address to opt in, we can then, part of the value or part of the things that we want to be doing is building that list so that we can then plug that into Google so that we can actually get some of the measurement and some of the tracking using emails as a unique identifier. Can you talk a little bit about kind of how that works or may work, or how we could be thinking about that?
Yeah, definitely. It's a great topic because I actually just had a conversation with a company named LiveRamp yesterday. But the cool thing about first party data is that anytime you go onto a website, right, you own that data. So there's all of these different companies that own their data, and there are contracts in place where people can share that data with other companies. So for example, when you have a publisher, right? A publisher does make money. So if you're reading, like, I don't know, New York Times on the website, they still want to sell ads because that's what gives them money. So they're going to partner with other companies to make sure that they can share that data, and they can deliver you content through that first party segment. So essentially, if I'm on New York Times owns that data, that if I click on something, they keep track of it and they own that data. They can then partner with another company to give them that data. And so then now we can work with that third party company and still have interest segments and learn about me as a user. The problem is what Matt was talking about, is if I don't have a partner with that third party, right? Like if I don't have a partner with New York Times, if I'm not partner with them, I don't have access to that data, but I have access to my personal data. So if I'm pulling an email list, I can then give that to a second data party that has, different unique IDs. So LiveRamp, for example, can build different IDs off of people because it has worked with all of these different companies to understand what people are doing on their sites. And then they're all kind of collaborating and finding out information about people in that way. So everyone is using their first party data and they're all collaborative. So what we still can do that, what Matt is saying. So if we know information about people, we can give that to Google and say, hey, Google, we know your name and your address, maybe your email. Google probably knows that information about you as well. They cannot give that information to us. They can't give us your name or your address or your email. But if we give that information to them, they can then match it up with the user and say, okay, cool, we can actually deliver ads to this person. You don't know who this person is. You don't know. We know that there's a person. We give it to Google. They'll spit out an audience that says, hey, you had a 90% match rate with your audience. So we don't necessarily know exactly who matched in that audience, but we might know that, hey, this audience was built from our camping list, from our email marketing campaign. So when we give that to Google and they say, hey, you have a 90% match rate, we know we're hitting about 90% of those people through Google. So the only way that exchange can happen is if we already have data on people from our first party data. We give that to then an advertiser or a company that has their own first party data, and then they match it together.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And I think just even it is, even as someone who's very, very interested in this, it is very complicated.
Right.
And so, again, I think that's why we want to make sure for everybody here that we're starting this discussion earlier rather than later, so that we can all kind of wrap our heads around some of the ways this is going to work now. But I think what's most exciting, at least the way I understand this in my small brain, is we have, obviously we want to, I think the online privacy, the consumer calls for better data protections and privacies are great. I wholeheartedly agree with it as a consumer, as a web user. And I think, kind of what you just described, Hannah, where we are thinking about our first party data strategies and how these plug into different advertising tools, it's actually going to make it a lot better. I feel like we're actually, once we kind of get through this valley of unknown and we get a little bit better understanding of what these tools are going to look like, I think we're going to be a lot better off than we maybe were just kind of relying on third-party cookies, because it's for a couple reasons. It's going to cause us to have to take ownership of our data, and like you said, that transparency, and I think it's going to make us a better brand to provide content and information and value to folks in exchange for this information, and obviously that content and information that we're providing them is important, because hopefully that's inspiring and getting their wheels turning for travel to Idaho. But it also is helping us on the back end. And I think when we look at some of our media partners that we've utilized over the years, to your point, when they have different relationships with other companies, I think about some of those media partners that have relationships with large hotel chains or airlines, and we're able, because we have a solid data pipe with those types of organizations, we're able to see if somebody engaged with a Visit Idaho ad, if they went to our website, and then ultimately if they booked a hotel room or they booked an airline, an air ticket, we can kind of then see that return on investment, full pipeline. And that's been a kind of a unique thing. There are plenty of those providers out there, but it seems like we're going to be going more in that direction, I guess, is my long-winded point. And I see that being a really good thing for all of us once we sort of understand how this works and how to best optimize toward it.
Yeah, I also agree. And I would say, right now with advertising, all of these cookies, we kind of take a stab, like we hope, and we rely on Google and we say, hey, we really hope that this person is interested in camping. But when somebody actually comes to us and says, hey, I'm interested in camping, that data is so much more valuable. And that person is interacting with you because they want to. And I think that is the way that we're moving, which is awesome. There's still always going to be advertising. But this way, they have more of a clear choice in who they want to be advertised to. And so that way, if somebody gives you information, gives you their data, and then they get an ad from you, it's not like, oh, why am I getting delivered this ad? It's like, oh, wait, I actually am interested in this. And I'm not that upset that I'm seeing an ad from, Visit Idaho, because I'm subscribed to their email list and I told them I really like camping. And so now they're giving me specialized content all about camping, so I can do my research and it doesn't feel like I'm just being spammed by ads. So we're really moving in the right direction. We just want to make sure we're prepared for it by understanding what people need from us, and how to deliver up personalized content to them by asking them questions.
Yeah. And I think those will be some topics we'll plan to touch on as we continue kind of some of these webinar series. But I think there's a couple things you brought up that I want to make sure we kind of plant some of the seeds with folks here today. You'd mentioned kind of your email program and your email campaigns. Hopefully that's something that everybody has a strategy for and is engaging on. If not, let's talk about those things. I think you'd mentioned as well, thinking about sort of a content strategy and making sure that we're producing regular content, regular good information for folks, and that can come in a variety of different forms, obviously, ranging from influencers to, to listicles, or, there's all kinds of different ways you can get to that stuff. And then also, kind of thinking about, systems for capturing this data, making sure that we're capturing this appropriately, that there are the appropriate opt-ins, different elements of that. And then, what are some of the value exchanges there? I know we've kind of talked about at Visit Idaho, utilizing just even like stickers, or, things that people like to say, like you said, order a travel guide, or, get a sticker, something fun. Everybody loves the stickers on their Thules, that type of thing. I think is stuff that we all need to kind of be thinking about, because as travel marketers, some of us, I guess, if you represent a hotel or an attraction, you've got the option of a, 10% off your first stay, or 10% off of a, whatever it is, a coupon or an offer there. But for those of us at the state, or, for like DMO marketers, we don't really have necessarily some of those types of tools in our tool belt. So, kind of beyond email, beyond content, beyond some of those offers, what are some of the other things that we should be thinking about as we think through some campaign strategies?
Matt, we have a question in the chat box.
Perfect.
You see
so
it?
Yeah, so Randy here, we've got, so with first party cookies, it's even more important to have a landing page on our digital ads. So Hannah, what do you think about that? What would you recommend from a landing page perspective for where our campaigns are driving people?
Yeah, I would 100% agree. I think that right now, if they don't necessarily land on your page, it's a little harder for them to for you to collect data on them, and that's always kind of been best practice. If you looking for information on people, you want to direct them to your page so you can learn about them. Hopefully they engage with your site, and then they give you that information, and then you can still pull them, since your first party data is people that land on your sites, you can still pull them into a remarketing list. But if they don't go to your site, then you can't, so you kind of miss out on that opportunity. So 100% agree. I mean, for example, with Idaho, we like to run ads on Expedia, but there's an option when you run ads on Expedia that you can build a landing page on Expedia. So people can click into, once they click on your ad, they go to Expedia, they stay on Expedia. And we don't recommend that, because you can't actually track the engagement on Expedia's site, but you can track the engagement on your site. So we really, if people do click on our ads on Expedia, we want them to go to our site and explore, and then, go back to Expedia and book, or go back to an OTA and book. So definitely highly recommend, having that information live on your website, so you're collecting that first party data.
No, absolutely. And that's even a complicated thing as well. I think, as you think about, the different landing pages you're directing folks to, I think that's where kind of some of that segmenting gets interesting as well. If we've got, different types of landing pages for different types of activities, different seasonal, types of pages, different types of ads. If there's more of an ad that is more of a lead gen ad, is that route to a different type of landing page? There's a lot of flexibility there, but I guess, maybe to add to that, there really isn't a one size fits all answer there, right? Your campaigns, your ads can run to multiple different, landing pages, depending on the type of ad, the media vehicle that you're utilizing, or kind of the content that folks are maybe more engaged with.
Right. And I would say, if you have, a Google Analytics tag, right, sometimes campaigns are just for brand awareness, and that's great, because you just want to get as many impressions out. You want to get as many people familiar with your brand, and that's okay. But if they go to your website, whatever page they do land on, you're still getting tracked. So even if they're not necessarily filling out a form saying, this is my name, this is what I'm interested in, you can still track what they're interested in by going and seeing what are your most popular pages. And, are people actually clicking? What's kind of their path when they land on the page? Where are they going next? Are they bouncing off? All that data is still something that you can collect that is still valuable to you, even if you're not necessarily asking people to fill out a form.
No, that makes sense. Well, hey, if we don't have any other questions, give everybody a few more minutes here if they'd like to submit any other questions. To kind of wrap things up, we have been recording this session. We will plan to post these to our website. So if you want to go back and listen or join us again for future sessions, we are excited to kind of keep this conversation going. I would absolutely recommend that folks research this, some of these changes and kind of begin educating and informing themselves. We'll make sure to share Hannah's slides as well, so everybody can take a look at these, at the information she shared today, to again just kind of continue to educate and inform ourselves. And as I mentioned earlier too, those of us at the state, we are here as a resource. If you have questions, if you're unsure, about some of the things that we've talked about here today, from email to web to different websites to different campaigns, please be in touch. And we're, folks at Madden are just a phone call, email away to help out as well. So want to make sure everybody knows that those that door is open. Next week, we're going to have Dave Golden from Sojourn. Sojourn is a longtime media partner of ours at the state. Dave is their vice president of product and is in charge of sort of crafting what their solutions are going to look like, to incorporate this change. And Dave, I had the pleasure of listening to Dave present, back in like October or November, and talking about this topic. And it's what really spurred my interest in this conversation, feeling like we need to make sure we're providing this information to our partners and all kind of getting educated and informed. So Dave's going to be a great presenter next week. Really looking forward to his information. Hannah's going to continue to join us on these sessions. She is our subject matter expert, so she is going to continue to join us, and we're looking forward to having some additional sessions with some great speakers. So Hannah, any parting words before we send everybody on their way?
No, I just want to reiterate that, we are all open. Like, feel free to, shoot emails, text messages, right? Like we are here to help with anything that you need. And so if a question comes up later and you're like, dang it, I should have asked that, like we're still open, we're still available. And like Matt said, I'll be here in all of the series moving forward. So really excited about some of the presenters that we have for you. It's going to be really fun and really insightful. So keep coming.
Perfect. Well, Hannah, thank you very much. And thanks everybody for joining us today. We'll see you next week, and have a great rest of your Thursday and upcoming weekend. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.